Well, hello and welcome to the candy wallpapered upstairs hallway of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Joost Elfers for November 23rd, the day of Irreverence. And here at the top of the page is a visual representational image of the day of Irreverence. We have us an image of, what could it be? Boom! It's a horse leg end table there. Oh, can you see? Can you see? It's having trouble. I don't know. Does that speak to the day of irreverence? I would say, by and large, on its face, yeah, it kind of does, at least by my read. But hey, that's not altogether all too important. Maybe we'll make some kind of connotation as we get on with the read as to why it further applies, perhaps. But in any event, like I said, not altogether too important. It is November 23rd, and hence, what is important is me wishing you a happy birthday. That's right. So happy birthday. But if this finds you late, I don't know, days, weeks, months, whatever the case may be, not a lot of people searching for their birthday on the internet, at least on the day. If that's the case, I just want to say, I hope you had a happy birthday. That's right. But for everybody else who's joining us to celebrate the birthday, that's right. I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I dive in with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, live up to the namesake. This is the DykASSt a birthday broadcast, so I like to roll some dice. But I do so, more importantly, not just to live up to the namesake, but also for synchronicity's sake. And here I rolled a 6 and a 3 for a 9. That's right. Now, what is synchronicity? You're probably wondering. Well, it's just you getting out in the world and letting the universe show you it's with you on your path. And you do that by trying to find a mutually agreed upon waypost, if you like, or a sign, rather. 3 and your 6 for a 9. That's right. Now, you don't have to go with the numbers that I've rolled you. You can do your own. That's all right. But it's probably advisable you take your own set of dice one way or the other. So you can assign directional values to number sets and also time limits by which to go in those directions. But the thing of it is like, when we get out in this world, we're usually pretty narrow of focus. We've got a mission and we're going to get after it. And our blinders kind of go up otherwise. So we don't notice a lot of what's going on around us. This is here to kind of break that, right? It's kind of like when somebody mentions a car and you start seeing them all over the place. You're kind of on the lookout for them, right? Well, get your mutually agreed upon number, 3 or 16 or 9 in this case, and let the universe start putting it down in your path for you. Now, coincidence, some of you might be saying, yeah, maybe, but here's the difference. You're going to chase that number down when you see it. That's right. Hey, why is the universe showing me this thing? Hey, go find out. Go find out. So, hey, you get your time limit, you get your direction, you head on out, reach the end of your time limits. What do you see? Hey, who's to say? Just stop, compose yourself, and look around. Maybe you'll see your numbers, maybe you won't. In that case, it's kind of going on instinct here. See to your pants if you like. Looking for anomalies and such. Hey, maybe you see some guy wearing an orange shirt walk through a crowd of people who are wearing beige. I don't know. That is the color of the Sagittarius zodiac sign, so that would be in line too if you didn't know. But in any event, hey, that stands out to you as an anomaly, let's say. So roll your dice there. Get a time value. And the time it took you to roll the dice is going to put enough time between you and that individual that you can follow them in the direction they're going. And who's to say? Maybe they just happen to take you in a direction you wouldn't have gone on instinct. That's right. And at the end of the time limit for following them, maybe you stop, look around. Maybe now you see in numbers. Maybe a 36 just happens to be in the address on the building you're standing right in front of. And what is it? Maybe it's an eclectic antique shop. Oh, what do they got in there? You guessed it. Horse leg end tables. That's right. Hey, you know what? The day might start to take on a bit of a theme. You never know. So you got to get out there, be open to what the universe throws at you, and see what you see. See, taste, touch, feel, and smell the magic if you like. That's right. And if you do, you're going to see why I suggested it in the first place. Hey, you got to do something fun on your birthday, I argue. And hey, that's just set up for you. That's primed to do as much for you. But, if it's cold out there, button up. You might be spending some time chasing down your numbers. That being said, I think you get the point with synchronicity. Let's get on with the birthday read. Your month is November. Your day, the 23rd. Your sign is 0 to 2 degrees Sagittarius of the Scorpio Sagittarius Cusp. And your quality and element is mutable fire. All right, November 23rd. The day of irreverence. Those born on November 23 are quick to show their displeasure with all overt forms of authority and repression. They are not ones to believe in something simply because they are supposed to. This is not to say that they are incapable of faith or adherence, but for them it must be justified and proven in its worth. And if they lack respect for rules thrust on them, they may react either with silence, a few choice words, or a physical gesture that makes perfectly clear how they feel. Rarely, if ever, do they back down from a confrontation. And actually, one of their biggest problems is their tendency to provoke arguments and fights. And those born in the state display a combative nature when they are around people whom they find difficult to suffer. So unless they are in the company of those they like, love, or at least respect, it is often best they remain alone. November 23 people believe in live and let live, but if they are provoked, their reactions can be swift and severe. They are usually thin-skinned about certain sensitive issues, which can unfortunately become buttons for others to push. Part of their spiritual training, thus, lies in learning how to be more resistant to provocation, i.e., growing a whole new set of buttons. And most November 23 people experience a large measure of friction with at least one of their parents while growing up. And these rebellious childhood patterns usually remain with them well into adulthood. And it may take them years or even into their 40s or 50s before they can finally succeed in reprogramming themselves to avoid conflict. The death of a parent whom they may not have made peace or fully appreciated can be devastating. And therefore, for those November 23 with unresolved parental conflict, there is no time like the present. November 23 people usually have a ready wit and an excellent sense of humor. And if this comic sense has not found its place in their lives, it should be developed, since it can diffuse many potential explosive situations. And when those born this day have learned to laugh at themselves as well, they will have progressed far on their evolutionary path. Spirituality in varying forms is spirituality in varying forms is a theme with which emerges in their 30s, but may not come to full flower for another 10 or even 20 years. Through meditation and deep forms of thought, consciousness, and understanding, November 23 people can ultimately liberate themselves from the more negative aspects of their personality. Paradoxically, they, the irreverent ones, show great potential for developing into highly stable, even authoritative figures. For November 23 people, becoming established in work and family life is essential to their development. Setting up a daily structure which revolves around business or family affairs settles and calms their wilder instincts. They should, however, draw on their restlessness when it is time to move on to higher goals. Otherwise, they may get stuck and stagnate. All right. How about that for a pretty interesting birthday breakdown there? I like to provide a little bit of a commentary on what we just read, so let's dive in to some notes. All right, let's get it. November 23rd, the day of irreverence. All right, showing displeasure with overt forms of authority and repression. You're not ones to believe in something just because you're supposed to. All right, you need to see something's worth it and know it's justified. Admirable, I would say. All right. You also aren't exactly game for rules thrust upon you and have a variety of ways of and means of relating how you feel about as much, which can run the gamut from reserved protest or being silent, if you like, to the likes of confrontation, all right, which you are said to rarely back down from. Problem with starting arguments and fights, and the reading claims, it's probably a combative nature there around those that you don't respect, I would argue, if that's what's blowing out of there. A fight, if you like. A fight's blowing out there. I kind of worded that funny. But in any event, to which the reading suggests if you don't have anyone around you in that capacity, it's best that you remain alone. At least the folks you respect and love, which is very interesting. I don't think they've ever related something like that before. Let's see where we're at here. It's best you remain alone, which makes me think that you're particularly volatile, okay, which may be understandable if you are, in fact, thin-skinned in certain subjects, or to certain subjects, rather. But I could see this idea of developing new buttons to evolve spiritually being a difficult task, okay? I don't see myself quite in line with this particular reading, but I think it'd be hard for me to develop a new set of buttons. So who's to say about you if those things are just like, I'm thin-skinned about this or that, and I'm bound to break out in a fight with that. That might be kind of difficult to form new buttons. This is what I'm saying, but that's even if realizing as much is even a desire of yours, all right? But even if that's off the table, all right, I say that there's still value in putting the effort toward becoming resistant to the things that provoke you, okay? It's nice to be able to move past such things as you're ultimately letting those things you can't stand take up your precious time, okay? And it's also living rent-free in your psyche there, all right? I would say that's not something that even me, someone who's, I don't know, I can usually walk away from a lot of that trash. I wouldn't want that to be the case. I don't want things living rent-free, right? And as someone, I don't see you as someone who likes things having power over them either. That's another way of those things having power over you and getting a reaction out of you. So I would say, find a way to let that garbage go. But your rebellious nature is a running theme this period. But with you, it might remain sometime longer than with others, apparently. So I mention that just to say you're not alone in that respect. Rebellion runs through this whole, from Scorpio on through to today. Maybe even a couple days later, who's to say? So you're not alone. It just might stick with you a little bit longer there. Let's see, but the reading then recommends resolving issues with a parent if issues happen to exist, which hasn't been mentioned before. So it's interesting they bring that up. They also say developing your wit or your humor if it hasn't been found, or if it hasn't found a place in your life, rather, because you have a propensity towards as much, apparently, that you should develop it, all right, because it's going to help you with your own self-evolution, particularly if you can get to the point where you can tolerate having a laugh at yourself. That's right. That's huge. At least at your own expense. A laugh at your own expense. From somebody else making it, ostensibly. It's one thing to be self-depreciative, but if you can get somebody else to do it and be all right, good enough. But, that said, don't be a punching bag. That's right. But, you know what? If you're combative, that's probably not going to be the case. People are probably going to be on eggshells thinking, oh, shoot, maybe I shouldn't have said that. And then you can be like, ha ha ha, you know what I'm saying? You take that moment to pause, keep them on their toes. Then you let the release happen, the resolution, if you like. Fire for effect, test it out, see what happens. I've found some people that act that way, man, they keep people on no pins and needles, they do. All right. All told, you show great potential for evolution, all right? Perhaps even one unassumed by others. That's right, keep them guessing. That's huge power. At least that's the way I read it, all right? So all told, the reading does a decent job of examining a whole variety of different aspects for your birthday here, and some that have never been mentioned before. And so I think it was a really decent, well-rounded birthday breakdown. That said, let's move on to your numbers and planets. All right, those born on the 23rd of the month are ruled by the number 5, as 2 plus 3 equals 5, and by the speedy planet Mercury. And since Mercury represents quickness of thought and change, and those ruled by the number 5 may find themselves likely to both overreact mentally and to change their minds and physical surroundings with great regularity. The combination of Mercury with Pluto and Jupiter, the rulers of Scorpio and Sagittarius respectively, only underlines these tendencies, and those born on November 23 must be careful of miscalculations with money. However, whatever hard knocks or pitfalls those ruled by the number 5 encounter in life, they usually recover quickly. And the number 23 is associated with happening. And for November 23 people, this may indicate a desire for exciting or unusual experiences. All right, that's your numbers and planets. Let's see what I had to say here in the notes. Turn the page. Yeah, let's get on track. The number 5, speedy planet Mercury, for quickness of thought and change, which can be realized in overreaction and a seemingly flighty attitude, the way I read it. Probably a little less diplomatically worded, if you like. But it's apparently only further magnified by your co-rulers, despite no mention of Mars. All right, Mars is a co-ruler of Scorpio, along with Pluto, but they didn't mention it. They haven't been mentioning it the past couple days, so it might kind of be falling out of favor as far as its gravitational pull on you. But the God of War energy seems to be quite powerful with you from the way I read it, so I'm surprised they didn't mention it. And as I wrote here, which in my mind would lend to be somewhat responsible for your purported combativeness, all right, what with the God of War energy. All right, but apparently miscalculations with money is a notable issue, which is a first in a numbers and planets entry from what I can recall, to which it also seems very oddly specific. So I would be hard pressed to think it's not true. But you know what? It's these kind of things I like that they drill down on because it often makes the reads seem more relevant, especially if it's true. Because I don't think that that's something that can be really swept across to everybody in a general sense, like the way a lot of horoscopes are written. But I think you get the point. Does it apply to you? Who's to say? All right. But as with other Mercury-ruled individuals, you're said to recover from hard knocks quickly. All right. But also unique to you, thanks to the number 23, is a desire for exciting and unusual experiences, the reading says. Perhaps what led you here in the first place. At least in an unusual sense, right? I don't know how exciting it is. All right, but in any event, that's been your numbers and planets. Let's move on to your tarot. That's right, your tarot, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies, if you like. But hey, it's here in the book. We don't have to take it home with us and start dealing out the cards to inspire our every whim and flight of fancy, predicting our future for us. So let's just see what it has to say. It's your birthday. Let's do something interesting. Expand those horizons. Take the blinders off. All right, the 5th card of the major arcana is the Hierophant, an interpreter of sacred mysteries who is symbolic of human understanding as well as faith. His knowledge is esoteric and he has authority over things unseen. Favorable traits conferred by this card are self-assuredness and insight. Unfavorable traits include moralizing, bombast, and dogmatism. All right, hey, on its face, this thing doesn't really seem to apply, but let's dive into it. I think I kind of found some correlations there. Let's see what I got here. The Hierophant, or the priest, if you like, all right, for interpreter of sacred mysteries, symbolic of human understanding. Also, esoteric knowledge and an authority with things unseen. Yeah, we heard all that. All right, self-assuredness and insight are favorable traits which seem apt, considering the breakdown, I would say. You know what you want and what you're willing to tolerate to get it, all right? To the point of combative ends, all right? But negative aspects of moralizing, bombast, and dogmatism. All right, to which, again, confrontational about things, and you're argumentative. Which kind of speaks to the bombast, all right? Maybe even moralizing if you're getting up on your apple box, or your soapbox rather, and talking folks into what you're trying to talk them into, right? Especially if you're raising up your fisticuffs to get your point across, all right? I would say that's moralizing altogether, right? But dogmatism, I don't know. Maybe you're so willing to die for your point of view to the point it's your own religion. Maybe that's the dogmatism there. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of a reach, but it seems to kind of line up, I would say. So in any event, that's been your tarot. Let's move on to your health. All right, your health. November 23 people can be nervous and prone to feelings of isolation and rejection. Keeping on an even keel mentally and emotionally is a demanding but also rewarding challenge for them. All right. Those born in this day must try to remain open to criticism if possible, because it will come their way, whether welcomed or not. And their mental health can be precarious unless they ground themselves and ultimately seek a philosophical, religious, or spiritual base for their lives. Generally, those born on November 23 have a good feeling for the material world and for the pleasures of the table and the bed. All right, their diets can go haywire if they give in to cravings for rich and fatty foods. And though exercise may be difficult for them to program into their lives on a regular basis, they should take it whenever they can get it, without overdoing it. It says in parentheticals. All right, that's been your health. Let's see what I had to say in the notes here. Nervous and prone to feelings of isolation and rejection. You aren't alone in general, or with regard to the period in that case. All right, this dynamic gets sporadic mention. So does finding a way to stay on a psychological even keel. But mental health is mentioned here in particular versus mental stress, at least as it manifests into physical ailments. But interestingly, the reading recommends something to believe in versus therapy specifically. There's passing mention of a love for food as well as sex, and the latter a seeming through line with a good portion of the folks in this period. So again, you're not alone in that respect. But it says to avoid rich and fatty foods, apparently for your diet there, and to take exercise whenever you can get it, but in moderation, right? At least it sounds like. A lot of times they can really drill down on your diet and really drill down on the kind of exercise you should get after, but they didn't really say too much about that outside of fatty foods and such. But the psychological welfare has been a through line for a lot of the Scorpio there. Like I said, those things can manifest as physical ailments, stress and such. I don't know if they were saying so much for you, but I would say keep it in mind. That's right. Get rid of that stress if you can help it. All right. So that's been your health. Let's move on to some advice. All right. Your advice. Get a handle on your reactions. Don't let others push your buttons. All right. And develop objectivity. Stand back and observe yourself. And never stop growing from the cradle to the grave. Okay. Hey, there's your advice. What do I have to say here? Get a handle on your reactions. All right, I had to write the rest here in the book. Stand by a moment. Get it in front of me here. I'd say this stand back and observe yourself advice is huge, okay? Be objective, all right, and how you respond to things, all right? Ask yourself how you would react if what you're doing or what you think of a person doing, if they were doing what you're doing. What would you think of that, all right? And if somebody was acting that way on the other side of me, boy, I would think they were an idiot or whatever the case might be. Now look at yourself. Why am I doing that? I've changed course with several aspects of my life in the past based on the same said practice. All right, so it's definitely great advice for continuing to grow and improve yourself. All right, what else do we have here? Certainly a philosophy to get behind or to believe in if you're looking for something to believe in. That's right. Just like the health suggested. All right. What else do we have here? So never stop growing from the cradle to the grave. Stay objective. All right. I think you get the point. So let's move on to your meditation. I had to check and see. I forgot. All right. Your meditation. Here we go. Irreverence should not take itself too seriously. Oh, they got into the theme here. Once more, irreverence should not take itself too seriously. All right. Hey, I like that one for you. And I'm not going to tell you why. It's your birthday, your meditation. That's for you to reflect on. But you know what? I think all the answers are in the read itself. If you've been paying attention, that's right. It works for you, I would say. And once again, that's just for you. It's your birthday. So let's move on to your strengths and weaknesses. All right. Your strengths. You're individualistic, you're free-spirited, and you're humorous. But your weaknesses, oh, here we go. Keep that skin up, that's right. Bolden it up there, thicken it if you like. And turn that objective mirror around so we can see all the pock marks on your face, all the blemishes we don't like to look at. That's right, your weaknesses. Let's get to it here. You're combative, you're isolated, and you're impulsive. Ooh, you know what? We already knew all that, all right, at least as far as the reading was concerned. It's not news, okay? And I would say individualistic, free-spirited, humorous. I think you could combat all those weaknesses with a great sense of humor. That's right. You got to cultivate it sometimes if you don't have it. Got to figure it out, I suppose, or be willing to let it in. That's right. With humor, you can diffuse all of that stuff. Individualistic, free-spirited. You might be able to do that too, but nothing's coming to me with how you would solve those issues with that. So in any event, that's been your strengths and weaknesses. Let's move on to those born on this day. That's right. And when we get into those born on this day, not only get to see who shares your company, what lottery you drew with the other folks born on this day, something I like to segue into is figuring out our passions. It's a huge subject for me. A lot of times I get out in the world and meet folks, ask them what they do, and more importantly, if they like it. And they don't. And you can understand why. It's just, it takes time to put in the work to figure those things out. Sometimes we know what we like, but not how to put those into an effect that generates some kind of financial stability, if you like. Well, you know what? We should be seeking some kind of life fulfillment with the things we like, right? You want to get out of bed doing backflips into your work day, don't you? Well, I say I do. So you got to figure out your passions. What do you like to do? So I figured this is the perfect opportunity. Not only see who shares your company, but what they did to get their mark out there in the world. This stamp in the book, if you like. And so maybe we can take some inspiration from what they did. Now, it might not have been their passions per se, but it got them in the book. And that doesn't mean it might not influence you to, I don't know, examine that course of occupation, if you like, or at least a hobby. So in any event, let's dive in with those born on this day. All right, we start off with Harpo Marx, the vaudeville performer, comic mime, film actor, harpist, and a Marx brother, if you didn't know. We have Jose Orozco, probably, Mexican painter, muralist, and a politico-revolutionary propagandist. That's right. Become you a propagandist. Put up them posters that sow the seeds of dissent. Oh, maybe. All right, we also have Billy the Kid. How about that? Combative. There we go. Born William Bonney, Western outlaw, murdered 21 men and shot down at the age of 22 by Sheriff Pat Garrett. We have Helen Rogers Reed, a New York Herald Tribune publisher. Boris Karloff, the British horror film actor, and played Frankenstein's monster. We also have Valdemar Poulsen, or Paulsen perhaps, a Danish inventor of the tape recorder. How about that? We have a one-word name, Erte, I'm assuming it's a French name, is a French designer of the Art Nouveau and an Art Nouveau innovator. We also have Shane Gould, an Australian Olympic 3 gold medal winning woman swimmer, retired at age 16. That's an early age to retire, I'm going to tell you. We have Franklin Pierce, not of MASH fame, no, is a U.S. president and general in the Mexican War. We have Krzysztof Penderecki, Polish composer. We also have Edward Rutledge, a Declaration of Independence signer. Oh, come on, he's got to be something more than just somebody who signed a piece of paper. Come on now. We have Lou Hode, Australian tennis and 2-time Wimbledon champion. Maurice Zoloto, show business journalist. Jose Napoleon Duarte, El Salvadorian president. We also have Otis Chandler, Los Angeles Times publisher. L. Litsky, Russian constructivist painter. Alexander Rodchenko, a Russian constructivist painter, sculptor, and photographer. So 2 Russian artists at least. We have Sai Baba, an Indian spiritual teacher. He found religion. There you go. A little dogma, though. It sounded like his own religion. We also have Charles Berlitz, a language school founder, and Manuel de Falla, a Spanish composer. All right. And that's been those born on this day. I don't know if you're going to take any inspiration from that. This is other people's lives. But hey, maybe you can. Maybe you can. I didn't know Billy the Kid was born on my birthday. Something like that. Though I wouldn't necessarily take that gentleman as a role model per se. All right? I think you get the point. Like I said, it's even if we can't draw inspiration from it, at least maybe putting the bug in you can help stir up the fires. All right? Because you know what? Everybody should be happy. I'm not just tolerating life, but enjoying it. And I would say that is an essential ingredient to throw into that recipe. So in any event, that has been those born on this day, which essentially rounds out your birthday read. Except to say your season is fall, your sign is Sagittarius once again, of the Scorpio Sagittarius cusp, and your quality and elements is mutable fire. And what does that mean? Well, that's a different set of videos altogether. I'll put at least one of them there at the end of the video there for you to click on. And you know what? I forgot. I butchered quite a few names in there. So let's make up for that on my side of things. It's not done in malice. It's just hooked on phonics. Doesn't often work for me with the foreign names there. But in any event, this has been November 23rd. The Day of Irreverence, from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and UStelfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking up a copy, diving in further with other birthdays, maybe rereading your own, seeing also your zodiac periods, diving in with the tarots of other days. Any event, hey, if you have company over, it's going to make a great coffee table book, something to break the ice with, either in a literal or figurative fashion. That's right, considering the size of it. That said, hopefully I just save you the trouble of having to type it in a browser by using the link there. But you know what? That's not what's important here. What's important, like I said at the beginning, wishing you a happy birthday. So once again, I just want to say happy birthday. And for everybody else who joined us, hey, I hope you enjoyed yourself and you join us for your birthday read. All right? But lest I forget, once more, your daily numbers. All right. I might not have piqued your interest with it, but you know what? Get out there. Let the universe show you it's with you on your side. And if you do, if you see, taste, touch, smell, feel even a little bit of that magic, I think you're going to understand why I got you out there. All right. So if you do, button up, stay warm, enjoy yourself. All right. I hope you do. I really do. All right. Enjoy yourself. All right. And happy birthday. Take care.